In a heated press exchange that spanned narcotics, border security, technology disputes, and militant threats in the Middle East, President Donald Trump delivered a series of combative remarks that underscored his administration's posture on multiple global flashpoints. His tone was blunt, his language direct, and his claims sweeping, leaving reporters and audiences with a vivid, if controversial, glimpse into how the White House seeks to frame its policies at home and abroad. The session began with Venezuela, a nation that has frequently found itself in the crosshairs of US policy under Trump. A reporter asked about President Nicolas Maduro's claims that Washington was preparing to invade his country. The president wasted no time turning the accusation back on Caracas, laying the blame squarely at Venezuela's feet. Donald Trump said, "Well, I would say this right away. Stop sending trend into the United States. Stop sending drugs into the United States. We knocked off actually 3 boats, not 2, but you saw 2. And the problem is there are very few boats out on the water. There are not a lot of boats out on the water. I can't imagine why. Not even fishing boats. There's nobody. Nobody wants to go take a fish." So it's one of those things. But I would say to him very strongly, stop sending people from your prisons into our country. They're sending their prisoners. They've done that already. So the numbers just came out another month with 0 people getting into our country. And these are figures, John, with people like you that would like me to do badly. The statement was striking both in its length and in its tone. Trump not only accused Venezuela of pushing narcotics into the US market, but also of releasing convicts and directing them toward American soil. He painted a picture of maritime enforcement so effective that even fishing vessels had vanished from the waters. The president's narrative was not just one of interdiction, but of personal triumph. His framing suggested that his administration's policies had driven migration to what he described as 0, turning even skeptical reporters into unwilling witnesses to his claimed success. He followed this with another emphatic declaration, designed to leave no ambiguity about his self-perceived legacy on the border. Donald Trump said, "Nobody has ever done on the border like I've done." That single sentence, terse and absolute, encapsulated his political brand, border enforcement not just as policy, but as the centerpiece of his administration's domestic achievements. The conversation then shifted dramatically from drug boats to digital platforms. Reporters pressed the president about his administration's plans to ban TikTok, the Chinese-owned social media platform that has become both wildly popular among young Americans and a geopolitical flashpoint between Washington and Beijing. Trump responded with the announcement of a breakthrough. Donald Trump said, "Well, we have a deal on TikTok. I've reached a deal with China. I'm going to speak to President Xi on Friday to confirm everything up. We made a very good trade deal, and I hope good for both countries, but a very different deal than they've made in the past." Here, the president positioned himself not as censor or enforcer, but as deal maker. His words framed the TikTok standoff as part of the broader tapestry of US-China trade relations, emphasizing that the arrangement would differ fundamentally from earlier agreements. Reporters sought specifics, namely, who would step in to buy the American operations of TikTok. Once again, Trump portrayed the situation as not only under control, but overflowing with corporate interest. Donald Trump said, "We'll be announcing that we have a group of very big companies that want to buy it. And you know, the kids wanted it so badly. I had parents calling me up. They don't want it for themselves. They want it for their kids. They say if I don't get it done, they're in big trouble with their kids." And I think it's great. I hate to see value like that thrown out the window. The statement blended hard economics with populist rhetoric. Trump described demand from major companies ready to invest tens of billions of dollars while simultaneously painting a human picture. Parents calling him, pleading for their children's favorite app to be saved. The combination of anecdotes and high-level corporate talk was classic Trump, merging policy with personality, global diplomacy with relatable family concerns. He reinforced the scale of the deal by acknowledging the immense financial stakes. Donald Trump said, "You know, you're talking about tens of billions of dollars." By emphasizing both the economic magnitude and the cultural demand, Trump framed the TikTok saga as a double win, a chance to protect American data and to score a political victory with families at home. The press conference then veered toward the Middle East, where reporters asked about Hamas and reports that the militant group was planning to use hostages as human shields in Gaza. The president's response was direct, almost threatening in its tone. Donald Trump said, "I hear Hamas is trying to use the old human shield deal, and if they do that, they're going to be in big trouble. They're going to be in big trouble. They put it out 2 days ago that they're going to use the hostages as human shields. That's something that hasn't done for a long time. If they put the hostages in front of them, Hamas as protection, as what they call them, bodyguards, Hamas is going to have hell to." Though he trailed off, the message was unmistakable. Any attempt by Hamas to employ civilians as defensive cover would provoke devastating consequences. His repetition, "They're going to be in big trouble," underscored the seriousness with which he wanted the warning to resonate. This statement also fit a broader pattern in Trump's rhetoric: absolute terms, dire consequences, and a clear enemy. His words echoed earlier warnings he had delivered to adversaries, framed in language designed to project strength and deterrence. Taken together, the president's comments formed a portrait of an administration casting itself as aggressive on every front: on Venezuela, halting narcotics and punishing alleged prisoner transfers; on the border, claiming unprecedented enforcement successes; on TikTok, striking a high-stakes deal with China while appeasing American families; on Hamas, promising severe retaliation if hostages were exploited. Throughout, Trump's voice carried the tone of both salesman and enforcer, boasting of deals, declaring success, and threatening adversaries. His use of anecdotal evidence, such as parents calling about TikTok or empty fishing waters off Venezuela, was deployed alongside sweeping statistical claims like 0 people getting into our country. Critics may question the veracity of such figures or the feasibility of his promises. Yet, as a piece of political communication, the performance achieved its objective, creating headlines, drawing contrasts with opponents, and cementing his image as a president who acts decisively. The press exchange underscored the White House's multi-front narrative: border control as a triumph, China relations as a deal in progress, Venezuela as an aggressor in disguise, and Hamas as a looming threat. The president's remarks were not nuanced policy briefings, but pointed messages, sharp, quotable, and designed to dominate both news cycles and political debates. In the end, whether discussing 3 boats knocked off, another month with 0 people getting into our country, a deal on TikTok, or Hamas going to be in big trouble, the president sought to project a single image: that of a leader who confronts challenges directly, leaves little room for doubt, and commands the stage with forceful words.